Hello and welcome to another Theory Break video where we take a piece of critical theory or philosophy and see if we can apply it to a literary or sometimes popular culture text. This week we'll be looking at Plato's allegory of the cave. Let's start with the story. Are we sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Behold, human beings living in an underground cave, which has a mouth open toward the light and reaching all along the cave. Here they have been from childhood, and have their legs and necks chained so they cannot move and can only see before them, being prevented by the chains from turning around their heads. So begins Plato's allegory of the cave. It begins Book 7 of his seminal work, The Republic. It's important to note here that actually it is a character of Socrates that states or gives us the allegory of the cave. And that's an important thing to pause over, actually, that Socrates we know was Plato's great teacher, but actually Socrates never wrote anything down. So the philosophy that we think of as being Socrates' ideas actually comes to us from Plato in the form of dialogue that is given by Socrates within Plato's works. Before we crawl back into the cave, it's worth pausing over this painting, Raphael's School of Athens. You'll remember Raphael, of course, as the Red Turtle, but he was also a Renaissance painter. And in Raphael's School of Athens, he portrays all of the great Greek philosophers in the guise of other Renaissance painters. And what's interesting to note here, that although Alfred North Whitehead referred to the whole history of Western philosophy as a series of footnotes to Plato, what we have at the center of Raphael's famous painting here are two figures. On the one side we have Plato, and on the other we have Aristotle, in the guise here of Leonardo da Vinci and Raphael himself. And we'll see Plato there on your left, pointing up to the heavens, up to what he referred to as the realm of forms, and Aristotle pointing out into the real world. And that's an important distinction to make, that Plato is kind of obsessed with enlightenment and thinking your way up to something higher. And Aristotle, we have kind of the birth of the sciences in a way, categorizing what he could see, touch and feel within the real world. And it is in this idea for Plato of thinking your way up to enlightenment somehow that he comes up with his idea of the realm of forms. Now, the realm of the forms is a place where the perfect version, or the soul, the essence of everything that we can see in our world exists in its sort of natural or most perfect form. This is a chair, as we can see. Now, Plato would suggest that in the realm of the forms, there is the perfect chair. He actually uses the example of bed, but I'm using chair. And he says that the chairs that we can see on Earth, we sort of know they are a chair because they share something, some kind of essence with that original version, that one perfect thing that is in the realm of the forms. This is going to make sense shortly when we dive back into the cave, I promise. So, if there is this realm of the forms that kind of may well exist up there somewhere, and by thinking you can think your way up to it, to this enlightenment where you can see all these perfect things, it stands to reason then that there is also the perfect version of a man. And here we see him, of course. This is the perfect man in all of its absolute perfection, muscularity, symmetry, all those things. The reason that you might say, well, Steve is also a man is not because I am anywhere near as handsome and attractive and perfect in my makeup as this thing, but because I share something, some sort of similarity with this original form of the man. Are you with me so far? Let's jump back to the cave for a second, though, and see what it is that we, in our realm of appearances, not the realm of forms, can see, according to Plato. Now remember, we are chained to a wall in this cave with our necks and legs fastened so that we cannot move. And we can only see what's on the wall in front of us. Now behind us, where we can't see, there is a raging fire. And walking past that fire, there are people carrying kind of marionettes and statues of those entities from the realm of the forms. So the perfect man, the perfect bed, all those perfect things are being carried past, but they're not those original things from the realm of the forms. Instead, they are cutouts or statues. They are copies of that perfect form. So in a sense, what we see, you might think, or what the copy looks like then, is a degraded version of that original thing from the realm of the form. So if the realm of the real, the enlightened, the realm of the forms is up high, where this example of the perfect man happens to be, we can't see this. In fact, we're a long way off from reaching that kind of enlightenment at the moment, because remember, we are facing the wall. So what's happening behind us is that someone is carrying this copy of the perfect man, the realm, the perfect form of the man. But what we see, according to Plato, isn't even this. It's not even the copy of the form of the perfect man. What we see is the shadow that is cast from that copy up against the wall that we can see. What we see is this pathetic, degraded version, that all it is a shadow of a copy of the original form of the perfect man, which, as we can see, is a very, very poor substitute for what's actually going on up there, according to Plato, in the realm of the forms where all this perfection lies. For Plato, though, he says it is the role of the philosopher king to essentially break those chains through literally thinking. You could think your way to enlightenment, Plato thought, through rational, careful, considered thinking, to release yourself from the chains, and you'll see the fire behind you and what's happening, and eventually your eyes will adjust, and you'll make your way up all the way out to where the sun is blinding, and you'll find the realm of the forms, and you'll see what's really going on. Finally, your eyes will be truly open for the first time. But your job isn't done then. Your job as the philosopher king is to then go back down into that cave and to tell everyone else, to enlighten the others, to free them or help free them of their own shackles. Because at the moment they're living in a world of shadow, a world of appearance. And it is only through enlightenment that you can find your way up to the realm of the forms. So potential readings then, or why is this allegory here in this book, The Republic, that is kind of a manual on how to create the perfect political state, if you like? Well, there's sort of three readings, really, or three obvious readings. One is kind of two readings in one, which is the religious or transcendental reading, which is essentially that what we're talking about when we talk about the realm of the forms is this kind of enlightenment, this kind of religious experience where you have a moment of clarity or grace, an experience that tells you what life is really all about, what's going on beyond the basic real world. That doesn't necessarily need to be religious, of course. It could be more transcendental, where we might talk about the kind of thing that the romantic poems are talking about when we discuss things like the sublime, that kind of experience that you have of being one with nature or feeling incredibly small with nature that leaves you irrevocably changed. The other one is quite basic, I suppose, and makes sense when we consider the skepticism that Plato had towards poets in general, poets and the imagination, although we'll get to that at the end. But really it's about logic and skill in thinking, that really, with enough dedicated practice and training in thinking, that was the way one should dedicate their lives to bettering oneself, and that was how one could find some kind of enlightenment in their lifetime. And what was Plato's whole deal with poets and his skepticism? You may have heard of this before, that poet famously wanted the poets cast out of his republic. And poets will tell you, they wear this like a badge of pride now, that, yeah, Plato knew, he was a wise man. He knew that poets tell it like it is, man. And that's why poets need to be cast out of the republic, because they'll unsettle things and they'll make sure that people rise up and, fight for their rights and things. Absolute nonsense. I mean, there may be some truth to that a little bit, but really, we think about this logically and what Plato is talking about here. What Plato wants is to avoid the fact, or to unshackle humanity from the fact that most of humanity is content with the world of appearance, this world of shadows being stuck in their cave. But the philosopher king is the one equipped with the skill and understanding to think beyond all of that. And he wants people to be relieved, or to be trying to think their way up out of the cave. The problem is, if you think about what painters, poets, artists do, they're so delighted by, not just content with the world of appearance, but they're so delighted by it that they make another copy of what they see on the cave wall in front of them, in Plato's analogy. So not only do we not have the perfect man in the realm of the forms, and then the copy that's being mannequined away behind us, and then the shadow that we see, by making a copy of that, what we're doing is pushing ourselves further into the darkness of the cave, further into the world of artifice, by building another step onto that takes us further away from the realm of the forms, from the realm of enlightenment, as Plato saw it. Obvious potential readings then, well, we've already mentioned the sublime, and that perhaps this moment of transcendental grace, or whatever we would like to call the sublime, feeling very small but suddenly very enlightened, and makes sense within Plato's allegory. Also, films like Dark City, or more obviously The Matrix. Will you take the right pill? Do you want to wake up, or are you happy with the world of appearance? Black Mirror as well, these constant reframings of what the real world is, where we keep shifting our expectations. Also, Sarah Waters' The Little Stranger, where we have a man out of step with his own class, so obsessed with the idea of this kind of broken upper class world that he associates that with the realm of forms. One reading could possibly be that's where he feels like he'll feel enlightenment, because the realm of the upper classes, or the upper middle classes, is essentially a kind of heavenly place to him, a place that he doesn't want to let go of. Anything where we see this idea where people are being awoken from the world of shadow, the world of appearance. The world of shadow is constantly shifting and constantly in flux, but the world of forms, according to Plato, is timeless and unchanging, fixed. And that's Plato's allegory of the cave. But what's your take? What do you think to this allegory, this piece of philosophy? Can you see any text that it could apply to? Let me know, and let me know if you have any questions, theories, comments, or queries. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.